Library of Heaven's Path. Chapter 77, Innate Sealed Meridians. Show his punching routine? Upon hearing Zhang Xuan's words, everyone became stunned. Everyone is concerned about you causing the student's cultivation to go berserk, and yet here you are, trying to get him to execute a punching routine. What are you trying to do? A peculiar expression appeared on Elder Shang Chen's face. Punching routine? We are in the midst of investigating the matter of you driving your student's cultivation berserk. Can you not change the topic? Cough cough, Master Zhang, I think it would be better for you to explain the details behind him going berserk. Perhaps. Your teachings may not be wrong, and it is due to some other reasons. Huang Yu couldn't help but to remind him of it. There were many possible reasons behind a person's cultivation going berserk. It could be due to the misguidance of the teacher, or the student comprehending the teachings of his teacher inaccurately and cultivating through the wrong method. If it was the latter, the teacher was still partly responsible for the incident, but it wouldn't come down to a punishment as harsh as stripping him of his teaching license. This teacher here, back then, I cultivated based on the method Zhang Lishi imparted me without changing a single bit of it. In the end, my cultivation still went berserk. After which, when I consulted Lu Xunlishi about it, he said that the cultivation method is wrong and that one's cultivation would definitely go berserk if one were to cultivate according to it. Aware of her thoughts, Zhao Yanfen said. He still carried deep hatred towards Zhang Xuan. Knowing that this was an opportunity to strip him of his teaching license, there was no way he would allow it to slip by him. Master Zhang. Upon hearing the victim say such words, there were no other possibilities that Huang Yu was able to come up with to absolve him from blame. As such, she could only look towards him helplessly. Try executing a punching routine. Let me see if you have improved. Ignoring the persuasion of the other party, Zhang Xuan continued to gaze at the young man. Do as Zhang Lishi says, try executing a punching routine first. Upon his insistence, even though Huang Yu was perplexed over what he was trying to do, she still turned around to instruct Zhao Yanfen so. Yes. He might not know of Huang Yu's identity, but judging from how respectful Elder Shang Chen treated her, Zhao Yanfen dared not disobey her instructions. Nodding his head, he walked to the center of the hall. Hoo-hoo. The wind whistled along with his forceful fists. That fellow might be young, but the control over his strength was not bad and he was adept in his battle technique as well. He could be considered a good bud. Not bad, looks like Lu Xunlishi has really rid him of the damage he sustained when he went berserk. It is truly not bad for him to possess this level of strength at such an age. Most of those who were in the room were experts on cultivation. Upon seeing Zhao Yanfen's punches, they nodded their head in approval. Elder Shang Chen secretly sneaked a glance towards Zhang Xuan. Since Zhang Xuan was the one who instructed Zhao Yanfen to execute his punching routine, he thought that he would be carefully analyzing his punching routine, so as to come up with an excuse for himself. Yet, this fellow had closed his eyes, and a tranquil expression appeared on his face. What is he up to? Question marks appeared on Elder Shang Chen's head. It couldn't be that this fellow knew that he would be unable to find any evidence or excuse to absolve himself of blame and go insane. Is this enough? Very quickly, the punching routine came to an end. Upon seeing that the Zhang Lishi that he hated had his eyes closed, not even looking at his punching routine, Zhao Yanfen was on the verge of erupting from the accumulated rage as he spat out these words through gritted teeth. Zhang Xuan opened his eyes. All right, let's stop wasting time. Since you have already admitted to causing Zhao Yanfen's cultivation to go berserk with your guidance, and he himself can testify for it, then why don't you just confess to your crime? This way, we can skip on a lot of trouble. Afraid that the situation would go awry the longer this was dragged on for, he said. Calm down. Zhang Xuan interrupted his word. Sweeping the surroundings with his gaze, he said, Since all of you are interested in listening to my explanation, then I will explain the incident to you all. Everyone's attention jolted and focused on him, curious to hear what he would say. Even Zhao Yanfen couldn't resist turning his gaze over. Actually, I intentionally drove his cultivation berserk. Zhang Xian's voice echoed in the room. Ah! Intentionally. Everyone stood dumbfounded in their spot. What kind of joke was this? There's no way to go back once you say such words. You will surely be stripped of your teaching license like this. Haha. Elder Shang Chen didn't expect that the fellow before him, after making so many mysterious and baffling actions, would actually confess to it so brazenly, even phrasing his words in such a manner. His eyes radiated with excitement. It is good that you have confessed to it. As a teacher, to intentionally guide a student erroneously and putting him in danger, you have truly transgressed beyond what a teacher should ever do. If he isn't stripped of his teaching license, it will be hard to appease the furious masses. Associate Master Teacher Huang, Elder Mo, there should be no problems this time, right? Huang Yu stared at Zhang Xian helplessly. His admittance left her without a single means to help him. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Zhao Yanfen clenching his fist tightly and gritting his teeth. He glared at Zhang Xian with undisguised hatred reflecting in his eyes as he said, I wonder how I offended Zhang Lishi, for you to find the need to push me off the cliff. I am your student, but you intentionally guided me erroneously, causing my cultivation to go berserk. What kind of resentment do you hold against me? Everyone else seemed to have thought of the same point, and one by one, their gazes turned towards Zhang Xian. Clan head Wang Hong was also starting to contemplate whether having his daughter and son to come under the tutelage of this teacher was a correct choice. So what if his theories were profound and he was proficient in teaching others? What if he suddenly threw a temper and intentionally taught them erroneously? If so, the lives of his children would be doomed. A fighter one Dan going berserk could still be saved. However, the more advanced one's cultivation was, the harder it would be to save them when their cultivation went berserk. Ignoring the gazes of the crowd, Zhang Xian placed his hands behind his back and the gaze of one who was unable to comprehend the world reflected in his eyes. Sighing, he lamented, Sigh. Looks like you have yet to understand. Understand. A dark line appeared across Zhao Yanfen's face. If it wasn't for his weak strength, he would have dashed forward to bash him. Understand what? You intentionally drove my cultivation berserk and you still expect me to understand? Understand what? Understand death? Do none of you really comprehend? Zhang Xian looked at Huang Yu, Elder Mo, and the rest of the crowd. Comprehend. The one sentence left the two of them dumbfounded. You intentionally guided someone erroneously, what did you expect us to comprehend from that? Comprehend. How you played your student to his death. All right, since none of you can tell, then allow me to explain. Zhang Xian shook his head. Sweeping the faces of the crowd, he said, I wonder if any of you have heard of the physique known as innate sealed meridians. Innate sealed meridians. Huang Yu frowned. Then, recalling something, she said, I have heard of it. This isn't an innate body type, but a type of disability. Those who possess this type of physique have many points of constrictions along his meridians. As though a river blocked by silt and mud, Genkai is unable to flow through them easily. Even if one is able to cultivate, there would be a limit to their achievements. Fighter 1 Dan would normally be their upper limit, and Fighter 2 Dan is an impossible goal for them. Hearing this explanation, the crowd nodded their heads. Innate sealed meridians might be a rare physical condition, but there were cases of it. As teachers and leaders of powerful factions, most of them have heard of such a physique. Zhang Lishi spoke of innate sealed meridians, can it be? Mo Xiang Lishi suddenly thought of something and he turned to look at Zhang Xian with widened eyes. Indeed, Zhao Yanfen possesses this kind of physique. Zhang Xian nodded his head. Me. I possess innate sealed meridians. Zhao Yanfen was unable to believe it. That is impossible. I have never felt shackled when I cultivate, so how can I be afflicted with innate sealed meridians? Never felt shackled? Zhang Xuan looked over with a meaningful smile on his face. Then, let me ask you, before you cultivation went berserk, did you feel short of breath when you cultivated in the past? Every time you gather spiritual energy, did you feel as though your entire body was being severed apart? How did you know? Initially, Zhao Yanfen did not pay any heed to Zhang Xuan's words, thinking that he was just spouting nonsense. However, upon hearing the latter part of his words, his eyes narrowed and his body froze.